Welcome back. As if we needed it. Drew, you're not sick anymore. Thank the Lord. But also, games.
You mean videos game?
Videos game, Drew.
God.
It's been a long time since we had a visit from the videos game.
Oh, that's really scary. Do we leave the cookies out?
We leave the controllers out.
I am consistently unimpressed with our sense of humor.
It's fine.
No, it's not.
We'll nail something eventually.
It's just throwing words out into the fucking ether.
It's fine. That just makes the winners even better.
Oh, thank God! Oh,
here, fine.
Wonderful.
Here, you want a true opening? Here, how about Drew? I heard recently that the prices of things were going up. You could say things are getting expensive pretty quick. Like, fast?
Are you talking about inflation? Speaking of inflation, Sonic!
Sonic? What? You picked up on my segue. Let me give you a fucking one-hand clap for that.
Ugh! What is that? What? Ew! What the fuck? I need fucking incense. What is... What was that?
Oh my gosh.
I need to put, like, a ring of salt around my house. Make sure there's no demons in it.
A ring of salt.
You just summoned an incubus with that. What the fuck did you do?
So Sonic Frontiers came out on November 8th.
That's the punchline. Is he's not going to explain. He just formed like a non-Euclidean shape with his hand. Whatever he did, it was like, it's a movement that can't be described in the third dimension.
In the third dimension.
What the fuck?
What?
It was scary!
Okay, well that means I have to put a clip of it at the beginning of this now.
I was gonna say you're gonna hurt someone with that, but no one watches our channel, so it's
yeah,
okay.
There you go. You watch it though, so I'm sorry.
But if you're gonna do it, then no, you're not! Speaking of not being sorry, Sonic Frontiers... Sonic Team.
Sonic available now. Stores. Oh my god.
We have to end the channel now.
End the channel.
You stop climbing the mountain when you get to the peak, you understand?
We can climb higher. So Drew, we talked a little bit about it. I've discussed with you that previously that I have made a list of pros and cons. What's the is there any organization to your list or just kind of random notes?
It's just talking points.
Okay, well, I guess I'll let you go. God bless you. I'll let you go first.
I didn't sneeze.
I didn't ask you.
He's got this cold look in his eyes. Like he's gonna pull out a fucking 9mm. And I'm not talking about his dick. Plus 2! This is the best joke I'll ever tell! You cut it right here live on stream. I'll never tell a joke better than that. Oh my... So I noticed with this game that there's I'm not nervous, don't laugh. Yeah, the nasty ass. Wait, you're gonna have to put that in the video.
Put a wink in the
that
video.
like slow motion 20 FPS wink you just did
20 FPS
from an early 2000s Pixar.
Discuss Sonic, you whore. For fuck's sake. We're just we are brambling like brambling.
Speaking of whoring out, the references. Okay. Alright, let's see.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, that's.
That's not even.
It's a little disingenuous. They got comic writer Ian Flynn, who's famous for actually caring about the Sonic mythos. And Sega literally hired that man to work on a game, and you're not going to believe this. The story's interesting now. Wow! It only took 10 fucking years.
I'm glad that the opening cutscene didn't take like how long was Sonic 06's opening cutscene? Like, it was pretty. It felt long.
Oh, I don't know.
It felt like 5 minutes, but it like at the very least 5 minutes. It felt like 10, honestly. But like this one is like 2 1-minute cutscenes back to back, and then you're in.
Yeah, the start of the story is kind of slow, but the length of the cutscenes themselves is not a lot.
No, and especially like you can skip them at any time. Like you can just, if you are not interested and you just want to play the game, you can absolutely just be done.
Yeah.
That was my first point, which just throws you right into the game. And the first thing about this game that I like, and I'm actually really happy with, is that speed feels incredible.
We're not staying out of the story?
Oh, well, that could be in context of the story too. The speed of the story too, it flows pretty naturally. Like as you just go, the story just kind of unravels for you.
Kind of works.
Did you? So, question: did you do all of the? Because I think you can skip the Amy, Knuckles, and Tails, like some of their cutscenes, and still get the story.
Yeah. All the mandatory ones progress the story, and all the optional ones it's just extra dialogue. But I got all of those for every character.
Yeah, because they're not really that hard to get.
I guess we need to clarify that there's going to be spoilers, but you probably already
spoilers. All the spoilers.
I also did it for Sage.
Yeah, because on each island, if not for the original Sonic characters, Sage will also talk to you.
Yeah.
And she will literally say, "You have no fucking chance." Every time, she's just like, "Hey, listen. You're here to talk to me. I'm here to tell you, I have no faith in you." And it's like, cool, thanks. And I feel like this Sonic would ordinarily be a dick to that character.
I love getting 229 memory tokens on the second island for her to tell me, you need to brush your teeth.
Not today, not tomorrow, like now.
How do you feel about them making just like an actual 4-year-old human child? It's a Sonic character. Because that still feels kind of like, I don't know. It's not as weird when it's like Cream or Charmy. When it's a human, it feels weirder.
See, but can you really define this person as human? They're technically a program.
Okay.
Okay, I'm just saying the separation between like, okay,
but
what separates
that's not
Cream?
What I'm talking about.
I know, but what separates Cream from like being like, oh, that's an acceptable child? But then you're like, oh, this is technically a program.
I'm not talking about the. All right.
I don't know. I see it differently, I guess. I do like that we get a literal Chaos Emerald backstory.
How do you feel about Chaos being descended from aliens? Because when that popped up on my fucking television screen at 11 in the morning, I was like, whoa! Huh? What? What?
I mean, honestly, it makes sense. Like, that was the first thing that popped in my mind. I was like, that makes sense, so that's cool. Like, I was like, I don't know.
I don't really see it as good or bad. I don't mind it.
It's an explanation for a character.
Yeah.
That's really all it is. And it's like, it's a character that we haven't seen in a game that matters for like 20 years.
They were going to matter in Forces.
Everything was going to matter in Forces.
Fair enough.
And then that ship sailed. But
they hit a fucking iceberg.
And then they decided you could make a lemur. Do you like lemurs?
Are you talking about Tangle?
No, you can just create characters, is what I'm saying. And that was the whole game.
Well, I thought you were talking about Tangle.
Oh.
I thought you were circling back to Ian Flynn, because it's a comic character. They mentioned Tangle too. It's
Yeah.
weird.
I didn't even know who that was.
Yeah, because she's only ever been in the comics, and they also mentioned Styx, who's never been in like the non-Boom canon.
Yeah,
which is even weirder. So
I like that though. I like that
I do.
It's all.
I don't want those characters to be stuck in the void.
Literally, yesterday, just yesterday, I somehow missed a random oh, Sonic was just running around, and as he runs around, he just talks about things he sees. He's like, "Oh man, this is some heavy firepower. Omega would love this." And I'm like, "What?"
I didn't catch any. Apparently, there's one for Jet too. There's one for Shadow. I think there's one for Charming. Maybe.
I didn't even see any of those.
There's like 8 of them.
Yeah, they're just random.
Yeah.
And given how much you run around the map, that's kind of surprising that I haven't ran into them. But
I do think I like that there's references to the story because after like 10 million years, besides generations of just no game is really following a continuity, feeling like this could be part of a different franchise and it wouldn't matter. I do think that at some points of the game, it does almost feel like a Family Guy, like, Peter, this is like the time we were fighting the Black Ops and Shadow the Hedgehog. But for the most part, I think the characters bring up things when it's somewhat relevant.
Yeah, that's the thing I wanted to say, is that it doesn't feel like a Family Guy thing to me. It just feels like a continuity thing. It feels like it's just straight up, hey, these events happened.
Yeah, for the most part, I think they do a good job.
Which is phenomenal to listen to in a Sonic game, because every other Sonic game just completely forgets everything about the previous Sonic games. So when I heard what was it, Maria and...
Yes, they bring up Maria
and like the Echidnas, Black Arms, and Babylonians, I was like, no way.
When they thought of the Black Arms, I thought I was fucking high.
I know, I was like, what is...
Because you know, like, okay, if they mentioned, like, oh, Lost World, or Adventure 1, like, then whatever, but they brought up that game, which feels even weirder than bringing up 06, almost, you know? Like, that's the one with firearms.
I don't think... You know what's actually a bit clever is they don't talk about... I don't think there's ever a reference to 06, and that's probably for the best.
Well, it's also because canonically that game resets itself from the timeline, so it doesn't happen.
Which is, again, for the best.
I wouldn't mind 06 being reference, it's fine.
I just think it would be weird for continuity, like, oh yeah, there's weird shit, I don't know, but like, I like all the little stories of the Coco, and just you're thinking. I like the build-up. I'm not satisfied with the payoff. I am.
Well, I think that's kind of... I don't know if you're talking about the Coco or just the whole story.
The whole story, I guess.
You can tell that they ran out of time.
Yes, which is something I wanted to bring up.
Given that the true final boss... One, I was playing on normal mode the whole time, and you can change the difficulty at any time you want.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like that's an issue in regards to, you know, oh, I have to start a new save file. You don't. But I was playing on normal mode, and then I got launched into space, and I think I hit X 3 times, and then the credits started rolling.
Yep. I, meanwhile, was a bit spoiled on the fact that well, not spoiled, but I remember watching a Game Explain video where they said, hey, no spoilers, play the final boss on hard mode.
Yeah.
And so I was like,
so you can actually play the boss. And
I did. From the first boss, I played on hard mode for the whole game. And it really wasn't hard.
Yeah, I can't imagine it'd be.
The bosses were definitely a bit more difficult, and I wasn't able to do a lot of the cool maneuvers that you see in other people's playthroughs because of it, because I was, again, on hard mode, but that final end fight really left a lot to be desired.
Yeah, it's really cool that they let you play a demo for Ikaruga. I just wish Ikaruga had something to do with fucking Sonic.
You know what, I was actually going to compare it to a lot of the the Kirby games final endings
Yeah.
where you go through this wonderful, fantastic world, and then oh shit, 2D like
Shoot 'em up.
shoot 'em up section.
We're fighting Stardream, baby.
Yeah, it just felt so weird. I don't know.
Yeah, I just wish at least in a cutscene they would have shown some other form for the end, because
Yeah.
they do clarify, I think, well enough that like the moon is not its true form; it can take on
Yeah.
like any form. It just looks like that for some reason.
Yeah,
So, like,
that
it
was the
could be
thing to me. I was like,
anything
why
else.
didn't it just turn into a person?
Yeah,
I don't know. It felt like that would have carried a bit, but and obviously this is where you run to the factor of like, oh yeah, they ran out of time. Where it's just like, what can we make pretty quick that we can just roll with? Planet. Fuck it. like that's one of those decisions where I feel like they had a grander idea, but they just
yeah,
couldn't get it out.
yeah. You can tell it's not like the fucking vision,
No,
you know.
no, that was definitely time constraints, and I think, man, I hate time constraints on games because they hold so much back.
Well, given that we're talking about Gen 9 later, this topic will come up again.
Yes, that's why I brought it up. But I'll leave it there for now.
Stay tuned for part 2.
Part two. But is there anything else you wanted to say about the story?
Sonic and Knuckles are canonically gay for each other, and I love it.
Even more so than Sonic and Tails?
I think that's a one-way street. I think Tails is bi-curious about Sonic, and Sonic's just straight. Until he gets to Knuckles. He sees those gloves, he knows what he's in for, baby.
He knows what's up. You get that knuck in bed, you know what I'm saying?
that sounds like a slur.
Oh, kind of does. Sorry about that. I just thought about that. I was like, oh.
Just like moderate shame. I like the way all the characters are handled. Maybe except for Eggman, I think.
I think the voice acting is a bit distracting for me.
Oh yes, the voice acting.
I wanted to bring that up. Amy almost sounds like a different voice actress sometimes.
Yeah, it's the same VA that she's had. She's just been given a different direction, so she's very low key for a lot of her delivery, and that's why it sounds off. She doesn't emote properly when she needs to. But for the lines where she's giving the delivery she's supposed to, it sounds fine. Tails, it's Colleen O'Shaughnessy. Knuckles is, I think, the same VA we've had. Sonic's still Roger. So yeah, I think the cast is still the same, but Sonic is given the most different direction. I got used to it. I
got used to Sonic. I didn't get used to Amy.
I think my favorite Sonic voice is still like Jason Griffith in like the latter half of his tenure. Like by
Which
the time
games did he do?
He did everything from Shadow the Hedgehog to Black Knight. And I think the last couple games in particular, like in Unleashed and Black Knight, you can tell that he emotes better than in games like 06. Yeah. And then they got rid of him and we got my least favorite VA. And it's nothing against the man. I just, I'm not saying it's like, oh, it's his fault. But like I don't like that kind of voice direction for Sonic.
Yeah.
I don't mind him sounding older necessarily. Like Sonic Prime is giving Sonic a new VA, and he sounds the most similar to Roger, but he sounds more, I guess I should say, energetic. I don't know, like there's more pep in his voice, but it still sounds older, and I think it works fine.
Okay.
But yeah, for this game, Roger, yeah, I guess low key is still the right kind of way to describe it, and I think it fits the game. I don't know if I'd want to hear this voice direction in another game.
Yeah.
But I think it works for this one.
That's what I can say a lot about the voice actors in this game, is that it definitely fits this game, except maybe a little bit of Knuckles' dialogue for me. But the Sonic voice definitely, I don't think I'd want to hear it again, unless if you want to talk about that the end now, it there might be a two or like a different. Because did you see the after credits thing?
I think it's just. I don't even think it's a guarantee that Sage is coming back. I think all that scene is for is just if they want to bring Sage back as a
That's true.
regular or just at any point in the future, then they can. I don't really think it's a hook for a sequel.
That's fair. It's difficult to say because I feel like there was a lot of things like unanswered, like that symbol that kept popping up everywhere.
Yeah.
There was never really any explanation for it. It was always deemed as important. You always saw it in certain important areas, but there was never any. So that's why I'm kind of thinking that they might throw with this game for a while because from what I've heard, it's like they're apparently sticking to this style for Sonic for a little while.
Which I think is the right choice.
Yeah, it fits. I like it, but it's like I feel like they're gonna make a sequel to this game and then after that go somewhere new.
I mean, if anything is. Even this is a bit of a stretch, but I think if you're going to point to anything in this game as a sequel hook, it's that ending scene where Tails, Knuckles, and Amy all say that they're going to start doing their own thing.
Yes, which I wanted to also bring up, which is like
I feel like every character gets an arc, but the character with the least important arc is Sonic, and
yeah,
I kind of fuck with it.
really,
Yeah, because like I don't know,
he has a need.
Sonic I feel is kind of like
His arc is hero.
I'm not gonna say he couldn't use one. That's not necessarily what I mean. I think for the exact story that they're telling, it's more about besides Eggman and Sage. That is, it's more about just his friends learning to become more independent. Amy's gonna start doing her own thing away from Sonic. Tails is gonna start doing his own thing away from Sonic. Knuckles is gonna start
Actually getting off Angel Island.
Yeah, they'll find an explanation for it.
I'm sure.
I don't know if it'll please me, but they'll figure out. That was the worst possible decision you can ever make when you're writing new characters. They have to stay at this one geographical location, or the world will end.
Yeah.
But they can't retcon it. It's too late. It's 2022. They'll find a way.
I'm sure they'll find a way.
They'll probably have them make some friends that they
take shifts.
Yeah, basically.
Maybe they could tie it. Maybe they could.
Now they
could form some sort of alliance with other characters. I'm sure
they probably can't use the Echidnas because of Ken Penders.
They could tie that in if they want to reference older games. They could tie that in with Team Chaotix, Knuckles Chaotix.
Huh.
They could have. He could be like, "Hey guys, I need to." Like I'm kind. He's like, "Oh yeah, like you've been guarding the Master Emerald for years. We'll take a shift for you."
Yeah.
That could be an interesting if they want to, which this game does. It seems like it wants to respect the Sonic universe.
Yeah.
That makes logical steps for me. If they wanted to go a different route, they could have some excuse where Rouge steals the emerald, thus making it so he has to go places.
It's Rouge trying to get him out of the house. It's just for his own sake.
But that's what I'm saying.
That's
where it's
cute.
That's what I'm saying. Like that, there's two different routes, and those are the two ones I see for him.
I think Rouge's ears. They're just big.
Bat ears.
They look like not. They look like the fucking the cream. Would you call it a pastry? Not eclairs. What's the Italian one?
Oh, I have no idea. No idea what you're talking about. Either way,
Cannolis.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
I'm wearing the cannoli in my ravioli.
Is there anything else you wanted to say about the story, or?
Not really.
Okay.
I guess Sage, but yeah, she's handled well. I like her character arc.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of typical for what is emotion? And besides that, like, you kind of know that her death isn't going to mean anything, so it's a little bit cheapened. But like, I would kind of rather that they not pull a Shao the Hedgehog, where like when they bring the character back, it's abrupt because you don't expect it. So I'm glad that they left that open for themselves. If they want to bring Sage back, there's nothing stopping them.
I think the dynamic between her and Eggman is the most interesting to me because of that ending. Where it's like, oh, Eggman is
when he's just looking at the horizon,
he's
big sad boy
he
hours.
is so sad.
it's so jarring. Like contrasted to like when he's blowing up the planet in Unleashed, it's like, is this the same character?
Yeah, and but even in the Eggman like logs that you find, he's constantly like debating over whether he should call it like an it or a she or this or that, and you can see the wheels spinning for him, and that before he finally calls her daughter.
It is disappointing that that's only in the memos, though. So the development, you like hypothetically, if a player did not seek out the memos, like I wasn't going to until you told me. If they were just looking at the cutscenes, it would feel like it kind of came out of nowhere. Mm-hmm. They build up to it very briefly.
One of the things I wanted to say, that if you do set this up for a sequel, you've already got Eggman's motivation for wanting to kill Sonic. You couldn't save Sage, so I had to. And now something similar to that, where it's like you failed, and like I put faith in you.
A better sequel hook would
I bothered to put faith in you at all.
No. Listen, man.
Eggman's too Chad for it.
Sage gets a crush on Sonic. It's like when your 7-year-old gets a crush on a high schooler, and Eggman has to like be like the get your hands off my daughter.
I guess.
No, I'm kidding. Please don't take that seriously. Please don't. Oh, I will shed all of my skin if you take that seriously.
All of my skin.
I will just be pink flesh.
Gross.
Please don't. So it's like an episode of fucking.
Well, let's move on to
the gameplay, which I give a 3 out of 5.
It's pretty decent.
Yeah.
You know what? I will say it's a great start to build something from. Because there's a lot to be desired, but I do think, like, I wanted to go down a few of my things. The combat, I think, is pretty good.
It is serviceable.
Serviceable.
It's more serviceable than the Werehog.
And it's more serviceable than the homing attack over and over again, forever.
Yes.
I think there's too many moves like that you unlock that don't really need to be there.
Some of them are definitely useful. The spin slash is fucking crazy.
Yes.
I feel like as soon as you get I think it's called Sonic Boom, the rapid fire kick projectiles.
Yes.
That's pretty much all you need.
I think so too.
I think that's the fastest DPS in the game.
I think there's one faster, but it definitely takes a lot more to build up. But what do you think of, and I wanted to bring this up, the 2D moments in the 3D world?
You notice that there's only a handful on the first 2 islands,
mm-hmm.
and there's a lot on the third. And it feels like, yep, they ran out of time. Because it's easier, it's quicker to build environments in 2D, which is fine. I kind of wish I almost wish they were like half and half throughout the entire game, just so it didn't almost feel like I was playing a different game 10 hours in.
Yeah.
It plays fine. It controls well. It's not like it feels worse. It's just, it's distracting. That's it.
That's fair. I did notice that at the third world inn, they stop becoming like optional and they start being like every corner you turn.
Yeah.
There's one.
If I can complain about it for any reason, it's that because you're so used to being able to look forward, it makes navigating the third island a lot more difficult. But you have a map, you kind of get used to it. Which isn't to say that it's completely fine, but like you can deal with it. You're a big girl. It's fine. You notice too. There's I don't even remember if there's any on Aranos Island. If there are, there's only a few, which tells me that that island was designed before Chaos Island in terms of development time.
What's Aranos Island?
The very final one. Chaos is the third.
See, that one, I feel like that was the one they designed first.
Probably.
Because that one, I feel, has a perfect level layout where you can see it and it's optional.
Yeah.
And then you're going and you just go. Like, I feel like that one was the one where they were like, this is what we want it to look like. All right, let's move that to the end. Now let's go back and try and, like, go first. Let's add a little less, let's add a little more. And then they just ran out of time.
They tinkered with it from there.
And you could tell the fourth island that was kind of the point, like, that was the running out of time moment.
I do like the fourth island. I actually think it's fun.
It is.
It's a nice, like, climactic moment. I feel like it lasts just long enough. However,
for a fourth
do
island,
not fucking call it an island.
Yes, it's part of the other island.
I feel like this is where I'm going to start really complaining, because I guess
there's only 3 islands. That's really all it is.
Yeah. If
I was excited when I saw 5 because I was like, oh, 5 islands, but then I was like, oh no, it's 3.
I have to put out my thesis statement real quick, because my ultimate thoughts on Frontiers, and it took me a while until after I beat the game to really have this perspective settle in. You know, I had to calm down from the hype of just playing a new Sonic game and not throwing up on site.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, I got
Which is a wonderful experience, but I feel like in a lot of interviews about Frontiers, it was either directly mentioned or at least implied that, you know, oh, well, you know, it's been 5 years since the last game because we really wanted to take a lot of time to make sure that this game was going to be good. And it is good because this game has better direction and it's more, I don't know if I should say inspired. It's got more of a concrete vision than I think the last couple games. Where Forces was very bland and Lost World was very all over the place.
Yeah.
This game feels like it has a better vision. However, it does not feel like this had a full-size team. And it does not feel like it had as much of a budget as it probably should have.
It was made to feel like a quota.
Yeah, and it doesn't feel like it had 5 years. And, you know...
I wouldn't even give this game 5 years. I would say at most this game was like 2 or 3.
Yeah, it feels like 2 or 3. If it was 3, then it was a smaller team than I could even imagine. And listen, props to what they did. Because, you know, I'm sure that Sonic Team isn't like, yeah, this is completely fine. You know?
Yeah.
I'm sure that they know that when they're running out of time or when they have to ship the product, that they feel upset about it. So I have sympathy for the developers. Game development does not sound like a fun job, because it sounds like corporate will never give you the resources you need, and they expect you to give them the world.
Can I tell you what gives me a better outlook on this game though? Is this game seems like it is the perfect wireframe. Well, like, okay, but let me explain. Let me explain.
Yeah.
This is not a perfect game by any means. And perfect maybe a little too much. It's a good wireframe to kind of be like, okay, if this is the direction we're gonna go, let's go with it. Oh, we didn't have that much time. Let's really go for it. Like for the next game, let's really try to push that feeling home of this is the direction we feel Sonic should go, because it's like we said, 2-3 years. How the fuck? How are you gonna get that? How are you gonna complete a vision, especially when you're starting this like different from every other Sonic game.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I feel like Sonic is in this, like, I feel like every 10 years you can expect something good from Sonic. Not every couple of years, where it's like,
That sounds about right.
yeah, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, okay, we got a couple good Sonic games, sure. But I think that it's going to take, like, them to really, maybe not even the next game, maybe the game after that, where they finally, like, get it together.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like this is a good spot they're in where it's like, okay, we got this whole thing approved, we got the game out. It's getting pretty good buzz. Like, it's not super negative.
Yeah, it's very much mixed. There's a lot of tens and there's a lot of ones, but I've noticed that on the whole it leans towards positive.
Yeah, like I've not heard anything extremely negative other than like performance issues. Like cuz and complaints about the game being short, but that's what are you going to do about that? I mean,
Yeah.
just didn't have enough time, but it's one of those things where I look at it and I say, "You know what? I'm comfortable with this being the direction because there's more room to grow." That's what excites me about more Sonic games in the future now because Forces I played 20 minutes of and I was like, fuck. And I never even played Lost World.
That's okay.
Exactly.
It
And it's
doesn't
like
exist. There's no Sonic game that came out in 2013.
but and I didn't play Boom and a lot of people were really critical of that game and I didn't even play it. I didn't want to play it. But it's I'm comfortable with this being the direction as long as they expand upon it and this isn't the extent of their creativity. If this is the extent, I'll say why not take that extra step? Because it's clear that they didn't get to finish something. It feels like there's more.
I get
It feels like
worried.
there's more that they're reaching.
I get really worried when I think about games like this because they're clearly rough around the edges and they clearly needed more time or more resources. And I really worry that like not the corporate side, Sega,
Yeah.
looks at this, looks at how Sonic Team couldn't finish the game. They couldn't do everything they wanted with it. It doesn't feel complete. And it has glaring issues. But it sells millions of copies and it gets good buzz. It gets at least a lot of sevens and eights,
Mm-hmm.
And I worry that Sega says, okay, so for your next game, we're giving you the exact same budget, the exact same development time, because clearly you've shown us you can work with that.
Yeah.
So that's how we maximize profit. I get really fucking worried about that.
See, but I feel like who's the director of this game? Whoever they are, I feel like if they really wanted something done, I feel like they couldn't argue for it the first time. But I feel like if they really wanted to the second time, they could go up and be like, "Hey, we are grateful for everything that you're giving us as far as resources. We want to hit a home run. We want to make that leap, and we want people to not just give this passing grade. We want to go the distance."
Right.
And if that happens, they could probably get a little more. It might not be a 10, but it'll still be a little bit more.
Right. I really hope that's the case. I'm not saying that the chances aren't good for that happening or it's impossible. It's just I worry about it.
See, I see a lot of, and when I played the game last night, I see a lot of ambition.
Yes, clearly.
And that's what's really catching me off guard with this Sonic game because it's like the last time I had like true fun, the only time I ever go back to a Sonic game, Sonic Adventure 2. That's the game I can put in and play and I can have fun with.
Yeah.
And it feels like that was someone's, I don't want to say vision, but it feels like it was someone's like fun time. They were just like, yeah, let's create some fun shit.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is kind of the same thing where it's like, I want to create the next fun Sonic game that people can come back to. And then I'm like, this is so close, but it just doesn't reach.
Yeah.
Its ambition is just out of its grasp. It's like, we can't do it. And that's kind of what I'm feeling what I'm hoping the guy can really push forward and be like, we gotta hit it. We gotta hit it.
I mean, you can tell that's what the team wants for sure. Will they be able to do it? Will they be given what they need?
What do you think? And this is kind of a dumb question, And I'm wondering if this was imparted by the director or not, but like the difficulty of the game, because you can breeze through a lot of this game.
I think it's fine. I think I'm okay with Sonic games in general being on the like easier to moderate difficulty side
Kind of like
because
Kirby.
the difficulty comes from mastering the gameplay. Although that applies to this game less than others because it's really only the cyber stages that have that typical like
And even then, those are
perfect
pretty
level.
casual too.
Yeah, they're very easy.
And I kind of wanted to bring that up too because it feels like this game caters more to casual fans than to hardcore, which I'm actually kind of for.
Besides the story and the references.
Yeah, besides the story and the references, it feels like this game caters more to like gameplay wise. It feels like it's more casual fan where it's like, I want to see Sonic go fast. Okay, here's Sonic going fast. I want to experience short term stages. Here are your short term stages.
Yeah, which
like
is fine.
It's fine. I'm not gonna complain about it, but it's just that feels like I wrote specifically as like the difficulty is just the right amount of challenge for casual fans. Hardcore fans might not like them. That's what I kind of feel about it.
I I took I shouldn't say I took issue, but I was kind of befuddled by just how much the Cyber Sages reused level design. Because between like Adventure 2, Unleashed, and Generations, I think like I'm guesstimating here, but out of the 30 Cyber Sages, I think like 25 reuse level design.
It's quite a big number.
And it doesn't help that like I think the controls for this game work for itself, but for Boost Gameplay Sonic, I think every single other game felt better. Like even in Forces, the control felt better for those cyber stages.
Okay, yeah.
So when you're reusing level design from Generations, I'm playing, like Modern Chemical Plant, and I'm going off like muscle memory, and it doesn't feel quite right. It feels okay, but it doesn't feel like it fits. But the more that I'm thinking about it, the more it's like, well, they probably made these stages because they didn't have enough time. So that's why they reused level design. All the visual assets, while they're largely reused, they add elements to it.
I wanted to bring that up. That does feel like they imported just level design and then differently textured certain things. Where it's like,
like the Unleashed stages, they're not like 1-to-1 in terms of like the exact size of the stage.
No, yeah, they're definitely like either stretched out or narrowed down or something.
But on the whole, yeah. But they probably only did that not because they didn't do it because they were lazy. They did it because they wanted the game to have a lot of action stages like that, but they didn't have time to come up with original level design.
Yeah.
So they figured because this is Boost gameplay anyway, we'll throw a lot of it from Unleashed and Generations. We'll throw in a handful original and a handful from like other games.
Mm-hmm.
So it's still disappointing. I can't mask it, but like it functions.
What do you think of the boost meter in the overworld?
It was weird that I could never upgrade it, but I never was.
Well, you can technically.
Huh? Oh, besides the infinity.
Temporary infinite boost, yeah.
But it was never a problem for me. The boost lasts a good long time, and it doesn't take very long to recharge.
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell whether or not I want them to be done with Boost Sonic. I feel like I really could go either way. I think really, I think what would have swayed my opinion is if we had more original cyberspace stages, or if the control felt better for the cyberspace stages.
See, I was gonna say I like Boost in the overworld, not in the cyber stages. If they got rid of it in the cyber stages, I feel like that would create more interesting level design. Like you restricted your movement quite a bit.
It's not it's not really that I'm like tired of Boost Sonic. Like it's still fun and it always will be fun to me.
Hmm.
But I think I really just I miss momentum based Sonic because Sonic just feels more natural in like the classic games and Adventure 1 and 2. Um and I really want to see new takes on momentum based gameplay
I
with
think
a larger moveset and bigger worlds, you know.
I think a lot of why people like City Escape is that feeling of momentum when they're going down the hills, where it's just like
Yeah.
you can see from the second that metal board hits the street, you're going slow, but you're slowly picking up,
Right.
and that's kind of what makes it fun. And I agree with you on that, but it's like I feel like Boost is, if anything, I feel like it's a crutch that they kind of lean on,
Well, exactly.
which is a fair. I'm not gonna say it's a bad game. It's like a bad mechanic.
It's fun in its own right. It's
Yeah,
just it doesn't scratch the same itch, you
which is
know.
why I think it would be better in the overworld compared to certain other
Yeah,
things.
of course the boost gameplay fits right in the Cyber State stages because for most of those levels, that's what they were designed around anyway. Um,
The
I'm just an old man and I miss my wife.
I want to
I miss my wife Tails.
um last thing before the other last thing I wanted to touch on. What do you think of the whole like fishing mechanic? I I'm kind of mixed on it.
It I feel like the game gives you enough leeway in unlocking other, you know, whatever the MacGuffins you need to get are, you know, you can get enough vault keys and memory tokens that you don't really need another way out. Because that's what the fishing game is.
Yeah,
They didn't throw that in because they wanted Big to come back. They threw it in because they wanted to give the player another option. And while I respect that, it's completely removed from any of the maps, literally, and it it doesn't require any skills that you're obtaining by playing the game because it's just a QTE and you're handed everything you want on a silver platter for 10 minutes of your time.
that's the biggest thing where I'm just like that's one of my reasons I don't like it.
You
But
know, it's cute, but I
I
wish it
wish
didn't let you cheat.
I wish it were specifically extra shit like the Eggman memos.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
what
that'd
it
be
feels
better.
good for.
Right. That's all I used it for. I didn't let myself use it for anything else.
I used it occasionally for the Coco, but then even then I felt bad having to use them to upgrade everything all the time because it was like that's the only reason for collecting them.
Yeah.
So it's just it was a weird feeling to just have that right there, and you're always tempted to use it because it's right there, and be like, nah.
Yeah, I think in
Like,
general they're better off. Really this game it feels weird saying this. It feels weird saying this at all for a Sonic game, but this is a collectathon.
it is.
You know, it just it's not as in your face as like a Banjo and Kazooie or a Hat in Time or like an Odyssey,
Or Donkey Kong Country.
but it's really you mean 64.
Donkey Kong 64, yeah. Sorry, that's what I meant.
Donkey Kong 64
I'm
would
sorry.
be very mad at you right now.
Well, I don't know what to tell it.
Tell it, oh my god, why is an N64 cartridge talking to me?
Moving on.
-2. Uh, I completely lost my train. I lost my
No, you
train
were
of thought.
talking about big.
Oh, I think for the next game, they're probably better off. I don't think they should completely get rid of any collectibles. I think it's still good to have a few, but I think we can get rid of anything needed for upgrading Sonic stats. Um, I I think we're better off letting some of the story or map progression being based around just interacting with the environment rather than finding things placed in the environment. you know, if there's got to be collectibles, at least I don't want it to be the whole game, like it kind of is here. It
Yeah.
worked. It's fine. I still like the game. I still have fun. I can just shut my brain off and play it for 10 hours straight. But it still gets old, and I feel like it wouldn't get
Yeah.
as old if like the map felt more than just a place to run around. And there's bits of that here and there, you know, like finding the Death Egg robot on Chaos Island or
Yeah.
finding the tunnels to go through in the last two.
Mm-hmm.
There's bits and pieces like that. I just wish there was more stuff like that that felt the islands feel a little more alive rather than just like, and here we put a boost pad and here we put rings and here we
Yeah.
put a cocoa alder.
Yeah. It feels very like segmented.
Yeah, the islands are still very fun to explore though.
Mm-hmm.
Just, you know, free roam camera, boost as much as you want. You know, a lot of variation in like the altitude. There's a lot of high places to climb up.
It's true.
Sonic's got a good moveset for traversal. Yeah, the framework is here.
I want to bring up what I think will possibly be the final thing to discuss for Sonic: the boss battles.
How is every single one of these better than any final boss we've had since I would say Colors. And then before that it would have been uh maybe ever.
Maybe ever.
Colors I feel like is one of the very few Sonic boss battles I can handle because it's really just that's what started the whole like 3-lane quick step boss takes 3 minutes, but somehow they nailed it on the first try and it got more boring every single time after that.
I guess.
Because all the other ones like Dark Gaia and BioLizard, it's awkward controls and or this takes 11 minutes. Time Eater.
The
Looks like a homing shot. Be careful, Sonic.
How do you feel about Dark Gaia?
That fuck. I'm not saying this is the only problem with the boss fight because there's a couple.
I will
That
say
last QTE, you wear your thumb down to the fucking bone.
it's true.
What is it, like 100 presses in 20 seconds? Or like 60 presses in 15? It's something stupid that only Sonic could do.
Yeah.
Hand the controller to him. He's got the Chaos Emeralds. I have
human stamina.
I have defeatable flesh and skin.
But Drew,
It wears down from friction and stress.
like, doesn't you may have defeatable flesh and skin, but doesn't that first battle remind you that Sonic, as well as you, are undefeatable?
I wish I were. But it temporarily makes you feel like I'm undefeatable.
The second that music hit,
I love that it goes full like 2008. You found this in the back of the music shop.
It slaps so hard.
Yes,
and
I love fucking Evanescence boss battle music. Unironically,
yes.
It's great.
I think it's perfect, especially for Sonic, because I wouldn't want to say that Sonic was like, oh, the end all be all best example of it, but it's just like so used to it at this point that it feels improper to do like remember when in Sonic Adventure where you beat the first segment of the boss with Open Your Heart and the second is just like an orchestral.
Why wasn't it reversed?
Exactly. It should have been either reversed or just have Open Your Heart. And just don't have a second segment. Just have it be what it was.
Right.
That reminds me just of these boss battles where it's like you are Supersonic and the best part about the whole Supersonic thing in my mind is I feel like they nailed it pretty well. It's kind of like the boss dictates the pace of the battle, and although that does suck
of course, because they're more cinematic and scripted.
And I think it's the 3 out of 2 of them have you on kind of like a guided area like where you're kind of just floating around them.
Yeah.
It still feels good enough.
Still feels better than any other supersonic boss fight ever.
Yes. And that's when I just lose my shit.
I feel like Adventure 1 is the only thing that comes close. Every other one feels too awkward. Even in Mania, when it's restricted to 2D, even that felt weird.
Yeah, I mean...
And this game just blows every other supersonic segment out of the water.
The music, the battle, the whole thing. You know what? I can't crap on the quick time events too hard. Because they do add a certain level where you're just like, oh my gosh, I'm going for
they're
it.
They're not that difficult, is
they're
the
not.
thing. They keep the difficulty for the QTEs.
It's a cinematic thing, and I get it.
The QTEs should be on the easier side. It's everything else that should be a little more difficult. The boss fights are pretty easy. But I'm not saying this is like a perfect excuse. I would rather the bosses be too easy than too hard, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'll fight 10 million Gigantos rather than ever wanting to look at Time Meter or Dark Gaia ever again. You know?
Yeah, because then it's intrinsically fun. It's not just challenging.
Yeah.
It's not asking you to precisely move. It's asking you to just go at your flow.
Yeah.
And that's
occasionally react. There's a good flow to the fights, typically.
There's no version of the fights where I'm just like, ugh. The most I got was the second boss. Because I just didn't know if I was doing damage at some points. I was like, what the hell?
Other than that, my only complaint for the bosses is that the final one, Night, feels like the easiest somehow. And I can't tell if that's because we're getting used to playing a Supersonic or not.
I think the issue is you've gotten used to your moveset.
Yeah.
I think it's because the first ones caught you off guard. And to be fair, I think they hit you too soon out of the gate because the way I see it, the first one was like, holy crap, we're here and we're doing this. Second one is different based as in it's flying around, and so there's different...
boss fight is definitely based.
It is, but it's like it's different in the way that it's like how it moves.
Yeah.
The third one is a bit of a challenge because it moves quick.
The third one's definitely the toughest.
And it has certain moves that it does. I feel like, much like we've stated before, the fourth one's kind of where they ran out of time and they were just like, we gotta fill some stuff.
That's why they just put a bunch of bullets going in straight lines.
And I feel too like that was a restriction that was sudden too, because you can't go in a certain part of the world, which kind of signifies, oh, the boss battle's going to be there. So that was just kind of the signal I got from it, which was like,
yeah,
we ran out of time. And I'm not even complaining. Like the last one I think was definitely the weakest. But as it stands, I cannot complain with what we got, because that was 3 of the toppest of top tier supersonic moments that I've ever encountered. And I like that there's a decent explanation for why he loses the Chaos Emeralds. Every time he's going to the next island, just things just shooting at him.
Yeah.
All over. And it's just like, oh, okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. He just lands and then...
It is a little bit Metroid Prime. You bump into Samus at the local block party, she spills her martini, and then she fucking explodes. It is a little bit that, but it works.
I would say this works better, because you still have your moveset, you still have everything you need, it's just that you're lacking that super.
Yeah.
What did you think of the fucking... You know what? This is a good spot to end our discussion on.
I'm scared.
What did you think of the fucking pinball?
I actually kind of liked it.
I forgot about that.
I don't think it should be there.
Yeah, that was my thing. I was like, this feels fun, but it feels out of place.
I think it should be optional. It doesn't help, too, that they... See, this is what I mean by Family Guy, is they...
Reference.
Most of the rest of the game, they take things seriously. And I'm not even saying the problem is that it's pinball and it's there, but they immediately lampshade it. And by lampshade, I mean they put a fucking helicopter ass spotlight. FBI is about to raid. Like, dude, I can't believe that was a pinball machine, Lois.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's
that's how it feels.
Sonic has like 3 lines about it before Tails is like, dude, shut up and fight the Titan.
Yeah, just do it. Could I say the one Sonic joke? There was one actually successful joke that made me laugh through the dialogue, which was Sage comes out of nowhere, like hovering behind Sonic. She's like, "What's your end goal? Like, what are you aiming to do?" And he goes, "Oh, well, sometimes it's a ring, sometimes it's like a
side post."
Yeah. And I was like, that's the kind of humor I need.
I hate that I laughed at it because I didn't like how meta it was, but it is funny.
It's one of those things where, okay, do that once, it's good.
Yes.
Don't oversaturate that. That's good as a one-off joke.
Oh my god, Peanut! It's like Casino Park Zone from Sonic Heroes!
Oh my gosh.
Holy frickin' shit, Lois.
Holy bejesus.
And then it's immediately followed Lois and Brian and Stewie and also Peter and Looking in a Mirror by Bingo Highway, where you collect the numbers. What's up with it? I got 3 hours of sleep.
Yeah. And watched Family Guy in your mind for one of them.
No, Family Guy just lives rent free in my head. That's it.
There's not much more for my notes on the game, really. But you know what? I'm gonna give it a solid like 7.5 out of 10 because I like it. The third world is definitely like the one that's the most of a slog, but it kept me engaged the whole way through.
I was engaged the whole time, and I consistently had fun. I don't want to give this game a number score because I really feel like even more so than most games, like by the time we get a couple of better ones, or at least by the time that the hype wears down from this new release, going back to this game will be like, yeah, it's fine, but I'd rather play something else. Which isn't. I don't want.
Or you'd
that
rather
to
have
be
more
a
of the boss
complete
battles.
knock on the game. It's just, it's very simple. It's a very simple game.
It is very simple, and I'll give it that.
It needs more. It needs a little more flair. It needs a little more intrigue. But it's got some of everything.
You know what? You're right. I'll give it a 5.
I think like a 5 or a 6.
5 or a 6. So like it's above average.
It feels kind of half baked. It feels like it needs more pizzazz.
Yeah.
It feels like it needs a little more originality.
Because replayability is definitely a factor.
It's good enough
to be that wireframe.
Yeah.
For them to build on. Yeah, I agree.
The goal is for, once we get 1 or 2 more of these open world games, we'll go back to Frontiers, boot up and dust off our Xbox Series X for the first time in 12 years. We'll play the game for a couple hours and be like, huh, how quaint.
Yeah.
Oh, these much simpler times. The goal is to just, we got to keep aiming higher.
You know what I will say?
But a good start.
Is, last thing I'll pretty much say about the game is that you're not really missing out on different versions. Like, you're missing on like some vegetation, like in FPS, but
oh yeah. No, I was playing the Switch version, and the popping was really bad. I was like, wow, yeah, this is how downgraded the Switch version is. And then I looked up gameplay from the PS5 version. It was exactly the same.
Yep.
That threw me for a loop.
Yep. I had to look it up too because I was like, oh, is this just the Switch version? Nope. That's why I say the Switch version is perfectly serviceable.
So now a Switch game is on every console. Nintendo's sharing.
They did it.
Yay!
Oh my gosh.
If you don't like the voice acting, I'd say switch it to. At least Sonic sounds better in. Oh my god, it's not Spanish. What is it? What's the language that's like Spanish?
Italian?
I tell you the number of times he's sucking this dick! The audio's not good.
You're such a shit sucker.
I've been holding that in for approximately 36 hours.
Yeah, I believe you. Fucking lig my ass.